Okay, so this lesson discusses the multiplicative property of inequality with signed fractions. And so you want to solve each inequality. Now notice when you read this inequality right here, it's read as negative 18 is less than 4y divided by 5. And so what you may want to do first is rewrite, see where this variable expression right here, you may want to write it like this. So negative 18 is less than 4/5 y, like that, okay? So 4/5 times y means the same thing as 4y divided by 5. Okay, so what we want to do is to get y by itself, we're trying to solve this inequality for the variable y. To get y by itself, we're going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of the coefficient of the variable. Okay? So the coefficient of the variable is y, the coefficient of the variable is 4/5. And so one way, so remember, we're trying to get y by itself, meaning we want this to be a 1 right here. So to get this to be a 1, one way to do that is to multiply both sides of this inequality by the reciprocal of the coefficient. And so the reciprocal of 4/5, the reciprocal of 4/5 is 5/4. And so here's what you're going to do next. So you have negative 18. I'm just going to rewrite this over, leave some space, 4/5 y. So negative 18 is less than 4/5 y. So what we're going to do now is we're going to multiply both sides by 5/4, just like this. So we multiplied both sides by the reciprocal. What you do to one side, you do to the other. And then notice what happens on the right-hand side. The 4's divide out, the 5's divide out, and notice 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 1 is 1, and 1 divided by 1 is 1. And so you get 1 times y, which is y. So you get y is greater than. And then let's go ahead and reduce this. So let's see, that's going to be, I guess when you reduce it, the 4 and the 18 are both even, so they're both divisible by 2. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. Negative 18 divided by 2 is negative 9. So you get negative 9 times 5. Negative 9 times 5 is a negative 45 divided by 2 is less than y. All right, and so that's the answer. Okay, if you want to write this as a mixed number, 2 into 45, 2 into 4 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4, bring down the 5, 2 into 5 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4, remainder 1. So you get 22 and 1/2. So you could say negative 22 and 1/2 is less than y, or y is greater than negative 22 and 1/2. Okay, just know that this right here means the same thing as, when you go backwards, y is greater than negative 22 and 1/2. All right, so this right here, all this means the same thing. Okay, all of these mean the same thing. All right, so that's the multiplicative property. That's the multiplicative property of inequality. All right, let's do another one. Okay, so number 2, you have negative 9/2 is greater than x divided by 8. And so I want to use the multiplicative property of inequality. And so what I'm going to do is rewrite this variable expression right here, and it's important that you see this, that x divided by 8 means the same thing as 1/8 x, okay? And so I'm going to rewrite this as 1/8 times x. I get negative 9/2 is greater than 1/8 x. All right, so I want this to be a coefficient of 1. So to get this to be a coefficient of 1, we're going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of 1/8. And so the reciprocal of 1/8, which is 8 divided by 1, right? So the reciprocal of 1/8, which is 8 divided by 1, or 8. So I multiply both sides by 8. So let me go ahead and rewrite this over and leave some space, just like this. All right, so I'm going to say times 8 times 8, just like that. So what I do to one side, I do to the other. Now remember, the whole purpose of multiplying both sides by the reciprocal is to get this coefficient right here to be a 1, or this product, I should say, to be a 1. And I do, because watch, a divided by 8 is 1, a divided to 8 is 1. So 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times x is x. I get x is less than, and I'm reading it less than because I'm reading it backwards. 8 is less than, and then over here, reducing, 2 into 2 is 1, 2 into 8 is 4, and negative 9 times 4 is a negative 36. All right, so we get negative 36 is greater than x, or reading it backwards, you can say x is less than negative 36. All right, so those two mean the same thing. So negative 36 is greater than x, or x is less than negative 36. All right, so that was number 2. Okay, so number 3, we have 9/4 is greater than negative y divided by 8. Now remember, this negative y divided by 8, you want to rewrite this, negative y divided by 8, you want to write this as negative 1/8 y. That's how you want to write it. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this as negative 1. See, this is going to be 1 right here, so negative 1/8. So 9/4 is greater than negative 1/8 y. All right, so just like we did before, you want this to be a 1 right here. You want to get y by itself. So right now it's a negative 1/8. The coefficient of y is a negative 1/8. So we're going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of negative 1/8. And so the reciprocal of negative 1/8 is negative 8, right? The reciprocal of negative 1/8 is negative 8. All right, now one thing you got to remember, when you multiply or divide both sides of an inequality by a negative number, when you multiply both sides or divide both sides of an inequality by a negative number, you reverse or flip the inequality symbol. That's important to remember. Okay, so I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 8. But when I do that, I got to remember to reverse the symbol, to flip that symbol. So let me go ahead and leave some space, just like this. And so I'm going to multiply this by negative 8 and multiply this by negative 8. But remember, the symbol that goes here is not greater than. The symbol that goes there is now less than. So the fact that I'm multiplying both sides by a negative number means that I've got to reverse that inequality symbol. Okay? That's important. All right, so now these 8's divide out, and so a negative 1 times a negative 1 is a positive 1. A negative 1 times a negative 1 is a positive 1. So all this right here is 1. 1 times y is y. So y, that's a y here. So y is going to be greater than, and let's reduce this. 4 into 4 is 1. 4 into negative 8 is a negative 2. Negative 2 times 9 is a negative 18. So negative 18 is less than y, or I can say when I read it backwards, y is greater than negative 18. All right, so that's number 3. So remember, whenever you multiply both sides or divide both sides of an inequality by a negative number, you have to reverse that inequality symbol. So don't forget to do that. That's sometimes easy to forget to do. So make sure when you think about an inequality and you're multiplying, dividing by a negative number, you got to stop and think, what else must you do? All right, so let's look at this one. So 8 is greater than or equal to negative 10/7 times w. So it's already written as a coefficient here. It's already written as a fraction. So right away, I'm going to think about the fact that I want this right here to be a 1. So I'm going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of negative 10/7, which is a negative 7/10. All right, so multiply both sides by the reciprocal of negative 10/7, which is negative 7/10. All right, but remember, when I multiply both sides by a negative number, that's where you're going to have to reverse the inequality symbol, right? Okay, so remember to do that. Remember, you reverse symbol since I am multiplying both sides by a negative number. All right, so both sides of an inequality by a negative number. All right, so I'm going to leave some space. And so I'm going to change this to less than or equal to. So greater than equal to becomes less than equal to because I multiplied both sides by a negative number. And then leave some space here, just like this. All right, so I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 7/10, just like this. Okay, negative 7/10. Okay. All right, now let's go ahead and reduce. So the 10s divide out just like this. The 7s divide out. And so notice I have a negative 1 times a negative 1. A negative 1 times a negative 1 is a positive 1. And see, this is 1 right here. And 1 times W is W. Is greater than or equal to. So W is greater than or equal to. All right, over here, let me go ahead and write this better. So let me go ahead and do this. So 7/10 times 8 divided by 1. So I can reduce the 8 into 10. So that is both divisible by 2. So that's 5 and that's 4. So negative 7 times 4 is a negative 28. Divided by 5 times 1 is 5. So negative 28 is negative 28 fifths, rather, is less than or equal to W. Or when you write it backwards this way, you could say W is greater than or equal to negative 28 fifths. All right, so remember, reverse the symbol whenever you multiply both sides, or divide both sides of an inequality by a negative number. All right, let's do one more. So this time I have 6 is less than negative 8 fifths x, and I'm trying to get x by itself. I'm trying to solve for x. Okay, so remember, to get x by itself, I'm going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of the coefficient. So the reciprocal of negative 8 fifths, so the reciprocal of negative 8 fifths is negative 5/8. But notice that's negative, right? So since I am multiplying both sides of this inequality by a negative number, I need to flip or reverse the inequality symbol. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. All right, so let me go ahead and leave some space. So I have 6. Now this is going to become greater than, right? So I'm going to be multiplying both sides by a negative number, both sides of this inequality. So negative 8 fifths x. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply this by negative 5/8, the reciprocal, and this also by negative 5/8. So what I do to one side, I do to the other. Remember, I multiply both sides by a negative number, so that's why I had to reverse the inequality symbol. So less than became greater than. All right, so let's go ahead and reduce. Let's go ahead and write this a little bit better right here. So I have negative 5/8 times 6 divided by 1 is greater than. Now over here, I want you to notice something. Whenever you multiply two numbers that are reciprocals of each other, that product, this product right here is always going to be 1. And you can see that's true. 5 into 5 is 1. 5 into negative 5 is negative 1. 8 into 8 is 1. 8 into negative 8 is negative 1. And a negative 1 times a negative 1 is a positive 1. And 1 times x is x. And over here, reducing, both of these are even, so they're both divisible by 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4. And then 6 divided by 2 is 3. And so negative 5 times 3 is a negative 15. And then 4 times 1 is 4. So negative 15 fourths is greater than x. Or you can say, when you go backwards, x is less than negative 15 fourths. All right, so that was number 5. All right, and so that is the lesson on using the multiplicative property of inequality with signed fractions.